This is Truth Between Lines. My name is Brian Walker. I'm sitting next to Tom Basile here. He's going to be doing an interview right now. And actually, I'm very excited about this. I really am. Because if you don't know Tom, he's been all the way from Washington to Baghdad to Wall Street. And all the way now, he just finds himself on Truth Between Lines. So we'll see how that goes.
It's great to be here.
And it's funny because like I tell my interviewees, I always kind of say, hey, this is how it's going to happen, you know? But Tom is a consummate professional. And I'm like, Tom, just tell me what to do. What do you want to do? Let me know. Because Tom is the host of America Right Now. He's on Newsmax TV. You can find him on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. He's one of America's top news channels on digital and cable platforms as well. So you've written for the Washington Times, the Daily Caller, foxnews.com, also Forbes and newsmax.com. So it's kind of amazing all the things, the fingers that you've been out there doing things, spreading all the word. And also you won you're the senior press advisor to the Coalition Provisional Authority, and you actually won a commendation medal for your civilian service and from the Department of Defense. So that's pretty impressive.
A long time ago now. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But, I've been very blessed in my career.
Oh, that's great. So anyway, Tom, thank you so much for being here. Your background, you also an executive as well, so business-wise and all the different things you did. So you were the New York State executive director for, what years was that for?
2009 through 2011, the New York State Republican Party.
Okay, so a time that the country was basically under economic uncertainties, for that matter, with the Great Recession. But then you moved to now is New York State a blue state, or is it just New York City is the blue state?
Well, unfortunately, it's getting bluer because you have so many people who are sort of the conservative Republican voters. They're leaving and they've been fleeing. New York continues. California is the U-Haul capital of the country. I think you understand that very, very much. But New York is probably close second because it's, the second highest taxed state in America. Yeah. People are leaving. So when I was there, New York was red upstate, purple in the Hudson Valley, red to purple on Long Island, and then deep, deep blue in New York City and Buffalo. Yeah. But unfortunately, because of the flight, it has gotten bluer over the years. So I used to always tell people, it's actually a purple state. Republicans had control of one house of the state legislature, so there was always a check against the far left. Yeah. And in 2018, that went away, and then we're about to see, potentially a very, very significant change in New York, unfortunately, next month, should Mamdani win that election.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So I was wondering, and I've heard some things from the economist Stephen Moore and things about if Mamdani wins New York, and which the poll is the way it stands up, he's supposed to, okay? What happens to Wall Street, and what happens to New York City at that point? Can we afford to lose it?
Well, yes, we can.
Okay.
Look, the center of gravity for sort of political, media, and economic influence in this country is shifting off of the coasts where it had been. And so there's a lot of stuff that's going on in Texas, in Tennessee, in Florida, in other places, and even in New Jersey, where they're like, okay, we're done with New York, we're just going to move across the river, or into Pennsylvania, because the tax rates are lower in Pennsylvania. I'm terrified about what's going to happen with Mamdani. Especially from a policing standpoint, because I think you'll have 5,000 NYPD who will either retire or resign immediately, because they know that he believes that crime is a social construct, that bail is racist, that these guys, that he would much rather prosecute the cops than prosecute the criminals. So I think you're going to have some real serious issues with crime. Look, Wall Street isn't going to change. Wall Street's going to be Wall Street. They will have satellite offices. There will be more, maybe some migration out. But the real problem that you're going to have is in the real estate industry. The real estate market there could potentially tank, and that's where you get roughly 50%, 55% of your taxes that pay for the budget of the city of New York is from the real estate market. That's what I would be more concerned about, and tourism. Because if it's not safe anymore, and we're looking at urban decay, and we're looking at the 1970s again, and we're seeing spikes in crime, people are not going to show up, and they spend an enormous amount of money there. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen. Sometimes I think that the polls are a little skewed. He could very well win, and if he does, America's going to see socialism potentially in action. There is going to be a fight, though, right? Because the state of New York does have a significant, so Albany has a significant influence over what happens in New York City in terms of money and policy. So there will be an effort for Democrats to sort of push back against some of his stuff. But we saw after Bloomberg how quickly you can erase the progress. So he's not going to get everything that he wants, but it'll be enough to have an impact, and people will see pieces of socialism in action. And sometimes maybe that's an instructive thing for the country,
Yeah, history books. Yeah. Now, if you're living right now in, say, a red state, a red area, red town, whatever it is, and you see this influx of people coming from New York, from California, from Minnesota, for that matter, how do we keep that area red to the point where we just, it's not changing. It's just we want to keep it the same. We don't want to move. We don't want to do anything different.
Yeah.
What do you say to people like that live in those areas that want to stay red?
Well, first of all, embrace the people who are coming because they have recognized that this is an environment that they want to raise their family in, and that they want to run their business in. And then you really have to look at quality of life issues and the taxation issues. I was an elected official in New York, in the suburbs. And for instance, I've seen how dangerous high-density housing is to maintaining the quality of life. Because people are expensive. Right? If you're an elected official, focus on economic development, focus on bringing in rateables, focus on bringing in development that can actually increase the tax base, rather than apartments and rentals and houses built right on top of each other, which ultimately are a net loser from a fiscal standpoint. All right, and that's where you start increasing then cost of living. You get increases in traffic. You have overcrowding in schools, and so development smartly is what's really needed. And I'm not a building moratorium person. Here in Tennessee, in Eastern Tennessee, people love it here. They want to come here, and we should want them to come. But building apartment buildings and people migrating out of the cities into the suburbs is not a way to ensure that the area remains affordable. And we also have to be very careful about affordable housing. There's a lot of chatter about affordable housing. Right. Affordable housing is a euphemism for high density, for government subsidized housing, for big tax breaks for developers, all things that cut against ultimately the affordability and the quality of life in an area. So I would look at that, and then if you want to keep it red, you have to have real conservative leadership. You cannot have rhino leadership in Nashville or on a county commission and think that you're going to be able to maintain what you have. Because we want to welcome people here. But so you need genuine conservatives who are going to lead in a fiscally conservative fashion.
Yeah, it makes sense. So maybe, myself included, moving here over 5 years ago now, it's Like I fully now, and I've seen it. I mean, and it's funny because I don't want to get off topic, but you see all these Cuban immigrants and stuff coming from a communist of Cuba, and they come here, and then of course there's some person that's lived all their life and was born in America telling them that, oh no, socialism and communism will work. It was done differently last time, and the guys like the people from immigrating are like, absolutely not.
Just remember something: whenever you look on television, and you see the No Kings protests. Or you see the people protesting what Trump is doing to try to bring down crime in the inner city, or the folks who are protesting at the ICE facilities, they're all white liberals. Okay, they're not Latino. They are not black. These are not people who live in the poor neighborhoods who are out there. It's a bunch of wealthy white liberals. The folks who were protesting the National Guard and the policing takeover in D.C. that Trump did. We're a whole bunch of folks who live. I used to live in Washington. I know where those people live. Okay, they don't live where the crime is. They could care less. All right, they live in Georgetown in multi-million-dollar homes, or they live in Tenleytown. In these leafy, communities, and these behind brick walls, and they're the ones who are out there, protesting. And Trump is actually trying to save lives. So. Right. The perspective is very important. You need to know who's really opposing this stuff when you see it on television.
Yeah, one of my last videos too, I talked about illegal immigration. Okay, and as far as my biggest question, and I posed it as a question to the audience, as far as why are long-term residents of America not becoming citizens? Now, again, you got the Dream Act and everything. You got the young kids coming over here, but what's the barriers to becoming a citizen, and why aren't people doing more people doing that to avoid potential problems with ICE?
Well, we had almost 900,000 people become American citizens last year.
Last year, okay.
But it is a cumbersome system. It does take years to do, and it's one of the things that we should be working on, which is if you have people who are going to come here, obey the law, and contribute to the economy and assimilate into American life, which includes learning English, then it's, and if they genuinely do want to contribute to our society, well, sure, and we should try to expedite it. I've talked to so many people who said it takes 5, 6, 7 years. I knew one guy, it took him almost 10 years to get through the system, they are furious, by the way, at the Democrats for just having unregulated borders, because they did it the right way. They they stood in line. They paid their taxes. They wanted to be a responsible member of American society. So people should. But we actually are swearing in a lot of new citizens every single year. Our challenge, of course, is criminal illegals, and there are hundreds of thousands of them, and then just regular illegal immigration, and the perversion of the law to make every single economic migrant an asylum seeker. And it just, and you and I both know why the Democrats did that, because they're trying to replace their voters. But that continues to be a real problem. And look, that's the thing. I think, one of the biggest things that Trump is doing, and he's doing it so well, is saying we're not going to take this anymore. And I think that whether or not people are willing to tell pollsters that, I think that they get it. I think that they understand that this needs to be done. We have to have, a well-regulated border, and we have to get some of these people out of our country.
Now, Tom, one thing I was worried about too, or wondering about, was individual states. You have federal mandates, federal law, constitution, and all that stuff. Individual states seems like they're trying to skirt around not only just Donald Trump, but this has been happening for decades. But we're talking about marijuana, we're talking about casinos, we're talking about the enforcement of allowing ICE to be in their communities. How are these states, communities, towns doing something different than the federal government? How are they allowed to do that?
Well, they are and they're not, right? So when you have a sanctuary jurisdiction, what you're saying is that we are not going to have our resources aid federal law enforcement. They cannot block, because of the Supremacy Clause, they cannot block ICE from operating. This is one of the reasons why J.B. Pritzker is going absolutely nuts. And they're lying to everybody about the National Guard. So what have they done over these last few months? This National Guard. He's trying to turn he's going to militarize the United States. He's going to turn these people into stormtroopers. This is like Nazi Germany. All this other stuff. It's all BS, right? Because the National Guard guys are not the ones who are doing the law enforcement. They're there to protect federal facilities and to protect federal law enforcement if they are under threat. Okay. But the U.S. Marshals Service, the FBI, the ATF, the DEA, and Immigration and Customs Enforcement are the ones who were actually going and doing the law enforcement. And he is surging those folks into these areas where we have Antifa, where we have criminal gangs, where we have the cartels that are operating in our cities, where we've had decades of lawlessness, like in Memphis. I interviewed a restaurant owner who he was telling me how much money he has to spend on extra private security just so that his people who go into his restaurant are not mugged on the way out, right? So what you can't force the state to do it, but you cannot prevent the federal government from operating within a jurisdiction when it comes to immigration. And and again, this is also political because what they're trying to do, the rapists and the drug dealers that we're pulling off the street now, the amount of illegal guns, they're all about getting guns off the streets. They've taken hundreds of weapons off the streets in Memphis, for instance. And the city's probably gonna sue. But just so people need to understand that when they hear about National Guard this, National Guard that, it really is the only leg that they have to stand on. They feel, and they're lying to people about what the Guard is actually doing.
Not to mention, I want to just throw in there the sex trafficking as well. How many people, kids, were found and returned to their homes?
Democrats don't care. Democrats do not care. They don't care about the kids that are being found. They didn't when Biden was president nominally. That the kids were being trafficked. Hundreds of thousands of children were being trafficked. Democrats didn't care about that at all. They never even tried to stop it. The amount of fentanyl that was coming across the southern border killed 200,000 people while Biden was president. They didn't care about that at all. So look, Trump is doing, one, what he said he was going to do, and two, yes, it is novel because nobody's had the guts to go in there and say, we're not going to use the 10th Amendment of the Constitution to allow you to permit lawlessness within your jurisdiction. And, they don't really have a legal leg to stand on. They're going to make that 10th Amendment argument. The 10th Amendment argument fails. It absolutely fails. So, and that's one of the reasons why the language is getting so desperate on their part, because Trump is going to be able to stand up next year, and he's going to be able to say, we saved this many lives. What have you done, Gavin Newsom? What have you done, J.B. Pritzker? Right? And what are they going to say? You're a fascist. Like that's it. That's all they have. That's all they have, right?
So. I think and it's funny you mentioned Trump's promises, because everybody I keep hearing, like, I can't believe he's doing this. I can't believe Trump is doing this. And you look back and it's like, that's exactly what he said in 2015 and 2019 and 2023, before the election. He said, I'm going to do this.
Trump is remarkably consistent. If you look at his, whether you like him or not, and then there are people who don't like Trump, that's fine. I mean, but he's remarkably consistent. When we talk so much about tariffs, and about his belief that that American companies and American workers have been getting screwed by the globalist system. He's been talking about that since the 1980s. You look at his old interviews. He was talking about that back then. He was against NAFTA when everybody thought that it was such a great thing. So he's remarkably consistent, which is one of the reasons why if you watch MSDNC, they will tell you that this is all just coming out of the sky.
Right. He just woke up today and thought that was what he wanted to do.
There's absolutely no principle behind any of this. It's just because he's a dictator and this is what dictators do, right?
Yeah. You keep hearing about that, the no kings thing, which is hilarious to me. Because I always think about the countries.
By the way, good for them. Good for them. We still don't have kings.
Right. Congratulations. You have one.
Congratulations. You did it.
Yep.
I don't know what you did, but we still don't have a king.
I wonder how the other countries around the world that do actually, in fact, have kings that feel about that too. You know, they're like, hey.
Look, they think that the other people in other places think that we're absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
They don't. We take those sort of protesters, I think, a little bit more seriously because they're very good clickbait and they rate on television more seriously than everybody else. The thing that we don't take seriously enough is the left-wing political ecosystem that is Marxist in its nature. That is literally hundreds of organizations funded by billions of dollars that has marched through all of our institutions over the last 70 years. And that's the Republicans' fault. Okay? Because the stuff that's happening to public education, for instance.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Institutions.
And to higher education. And to the churches. You know, we were just talking about controlling language when somebody says affordable housing. Well, affordable housing is great. Yeah, well, this is what affordable housing really means, right? That Republicans did not push back enough on all of that. You know, the growth of the administrative state and the growth of the welfare complex. Republicans have never really had the I was going to say the B word, but we're not going to. I don't know. It's a family show. Have never really had the guts to truly stand up and say these programs don't work. They're creating an underclass in our society, and they're allowing people, particularly people of color, to be manipulated, and we've got to do something about it. And by the way, it's bankrupting the country while we're doing it. So, look, what Trump is doing when it comes to federalism is also really incredibly important because he's right-sizing. He's trying to realign us back to the way things were, really should be, and what the founders thought that they should be. And I don't know how successful he's going to be because he's up against a lot. Right? He's up against the public employees unions. But at least he's trying. I was with Lee Zeldin on Saturday. They have cut more duplicative, onerous regulations.
Lee Zeldin's who?
He is the EPA administrator. They have cut more duplicative, onerous regulations out of the EPA and tried to streamline the agency more in the last 8 months than had been done in the last 20 years. These are the types of things that we need to do. And what that does is it gives people in Tennessee more power, which is really what we want to be doing. I mean, that's really, we should be devolving power away from Washington. And hopefully Trump will do that as well.
Yeah, you mentioned the institutions too. I mean, we're talking, I think the Democrats are playing the long game because they start off in grade school, even kindergarten. They were talking about transgenders in kindergarten and things. I mean, things that little kids should be worried about blocks and alphabets and everything else. And they're worried about, what sex they are. And it's like, come on. But we're seeing that now. And I don't know if you want to break the stretch of what we saw when COVID happened, when actually a lot of the kids had to stay home from school. And all of a sudden the parents are looking over their shoulder at their iPads or the MacBook Pros or whatever they're looking at and saying, that's what is that in the background? And what is that flag or what are they talking about? And I think COVID opened the eyes to a lot of parents to say, okay,
a lot of people.
Is this really going on?
Is this what? That's the reason why we're seeing school choice.
School choice.
We're seeing a lot more school choice programs. We are seeing a diminished, some diminished power of the public school teachers unions. You're seeing a lot of states step up and really look at the curriculum and that was kind of the one positive thing maybe that came out of COVID, which was one of the darkest times in the history of this country. Because it was the largest social experiment that this and the greatest threat to American freedom that this country has ever been through.
Yeah, amazingly. I mean, do you think for COVID that the Democrats overlooked a lot of the deaths that were going on, not necessarily from the virus, from the cold, but from, I know personally, somebody's parents and family that died because they were too afraid to go to the hospital. They died of other things because they're too afraid to go to the hospital, too afraid to go out of their house. So they just said, well, I'll take some Tylenol and I'll be fine. And they actually ended up dying because they're too afraid. What happened with that?
The deception during COVID was multi-pronged. All right. And it was, which made it even more insidious.
Yeah.
Because the case, hospitalization, and death rates were total fiction.
Yeah.
Right? We were incentivizing hospitals to count people. The federal government was incentivizing hospitals to count people as COVID deaths.
Right.
So if you came in with, if you died in the hospital from cancer, or you died from a car accident.
Well, there was a documented case of a car accident. Yes.
And there are a number of them.
Yeah.
But you happen to have COVID, you were counted as a COVID death, right?
Yeah.
So all of those numbers that they scared the heck out of everybody with on CNN,
Right.
you know, the death count numbers.
Oh, it was like daily. They came out every day. We have this many deaths today.
It was all fiction.
Yeah.
Okay. And we will never know the point that you made. We will never know how many people died because they didn't get their cancer treatment, because they didn't get their screening, because they didn't go to the doctor and discover that they had a condition that was treatable, but because the doctor's office was closed and because they were scared out of their minds to leave their house, they didn't do it. We will never know. We just won't. But how we were lied to by the government and how we were manipulated by the government is a cautionary tale for everyone.
Yeah.
And the prescription ultimately became worse than the disease. The number of people who lost their businesses, who lost their livelihoods, the number of people who were isolated, the number of suicides,
depression
from lockdown. And then, you know, the fact that they tried to manipulate our children and try to force vaccinate our kids, when the CDC's own number showed that if you were under the age of 18 and you did not have multiple comorbidities, that the mortality rate for COVID with a child was 0.0016.
Right.
And yet they kept the schools closed and they tried to force vaccinate kids. It was, I mean, people should never forget what was done. Closing the churches down, keeping the abortion clinics and the liquor stores open. I mean, things like that.
Right.
It's incredible.
Yeah, they did, and the gyms too, for that matter. You closed the gyms. So I mean, people trying to get healthy. I mean, they put a guy off of the beach. He was out there surfing, and they took him off the beach.
However evil you think Fauci was, you don't think he's evil enough. When you think about the fact that this is a guy who had a votive candle with himself as a saint at a massive portrait of himself in his own office. This is a guy who, at the beginning of all of this, never once went on television and said, "Look, this is a respiratory illness. Okay, go if you have diabetes or you think you do, go get yourself checked out. If you have heart disease, all right, you need to be careful. Stop smoking, start losing weight, and exercise." He never said that. All right, because those are the comorbidities. If you died from COVID, it was we knew by June of 2020 who the people were who were going to be at most risk.
Yes.
And yet the deep state in Washington and the public health complex said, "Oh no, we're going to shut the whole damn thing down."
Yeah.
And places like California and New York and Illinois took it to an extreme because, again, they wanted to see how far they could push the Constitution.
Yeah, that is amazing. Well, speaking of ways to shut down the government and shut down the lives of things, let's talk about January 6th.
Okay.
Better segue there.
Okay.
But because I look at it now that all the information is coming out now, where we got a lot of people coming and saying that, hey, we know for a fact there are Antifa members dressed as Trump supporters in the audience or out there. We also know that the FBI had agents in the audience.
A lot of them.
Yep. I mean, dressed appropriately, let's say. Obviously, they weren't just, said a big sign that said FBI. They were undercover. And I always wonder who Ray Epps was. We got to figure out that. I just don't know that. But what were you, in all your investigations and all the things you're doing, what can you tell us now? And how are we going to, like, who's going to jail is what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who's going to jail. But I was on the air that day.
Oh, that day, yeah.
I was in the chair in the studio when the riot happened. Having worked on Capitol Hill, I frankly couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Yeah.
Having understood that they were going to have this event in the Ellipse, and I remember saying the week before when we found out that they were going to do something on that day, I said, this is not going to end well. This is really fraught with peril, and the White House really should pull back from it. They handed the Democrats, who are the leading purveyors of political violence in this country, a talking point now, and imagery now that will live long after you and I are gone.
Yeah.
That being said, it wasn't an insurrection, all right? Nobody who's ever been arrested was ever charged with insurrection.
But they're still in jail. Yep, and right.
Some of these people are, have still been, Trump commuted a lot of their sentences and pardoned a lot of them. He said he was going to do that. And I always find it so interesting that the group of people in this country who own the most weapons per capita, right?
Yeah.
Did not have a single firearm on them. But they were going to overthrow the government.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
So I saw this coming.
Yeah.
I also said on the air that day, and I got some flack for it, the idea that there could be infiltrators who were stirring the pot.
Sure. Yep.
And I wasn't willing to accept that good conservatives would assault police officers. Now, I don't know individually who those folks were who were fighting with the Capitol Police and who were throwing those punches and everything. But I know that Trump wants to get to the bottom of this stuff. We saw that report come out that there were dozens and dozens and dozens of FBI guys. We know what the timeline is in terms of when National Guard and extra security was requested.
Requested, right?
By the president, by the Republicans. I know for a fact that Nancy Pelosi wanted nothing to do with it. She wanted to see this happen, and because the Democrats saw that the Trump supporters and the president, and they had reason to be enraged. Yeah. Okay, not excusing the behavior, but I'm saying they had reason to be enraged, and I think more will come out about 2020 as we go along. But she saw that, and she saw the rope, and she said, "Give them enough of it to hang themselves."
Yeah, it was an opportunity for them to do.
It was a huge political opportunity.
Yeah,
and look, she may be heavily medicated, and she may be, whatever all that she is, right? But she's not dumb.
No.
And she said he's going to do this thing on the Ellipse. It's going to get out of hand, and then we can impeach him again. And the president kind of walked into it, and it was a really unfortunate day because it still obscures BLM, the Black Lives Matter riots. Marxism is and BLM was a Marxist organization. Marxism is founded on the principle that there are no morals, there are no standards. You are in order to affect the revolution that you want, violence is okay. And we've seen that over and over and over again. And unfortunately, for a time there, it looked, the left and the left-wing press made it look like it was the conservatives that were the violent ones.
Right.
And that does not bear out in history.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the end justifies the means. That's what we're getting at with that one. But yeah, when you got a grandmother's going in there, supposedly breaking into the Capitol and praying, on her knees with a Bible in hand and saying, I'm hoping to bless, or hope that the decisions made here in this Capitol are good.
Right, and
you're going to lock her up,
and she's getting locked, and she's getting locked up. I mean, it was a dark day for the country, and really for the conservative movement. Because again, anytime that you hand your opposition something that they are going to be able, they're going to be able to exploit, it unfortunately, it can be very damaging. But to your point, I think that Kash Patel will, to the degree that he's able to, because I'm sure a lot of evidence was destroyed during the Biden years. I think that we'll know more about what happened that day.
I was thinking, or the evidence is sitting in his garage right now in front of his Corvette. So it's sitting there at his house, at his second house in New Jersey or wherever.
But in fairness to him, he doesn't really know.
Oh, sure.
We had a president who was a vegetable which was a threat to our national security and our very freedom for years.
I know. And I want to get on the tangent of he was supposed to run again for a second term, but that's fun. But so let me ask you then, what is the new normal going forward? 2028, obviously Donald Trump is not going to run for a third term. I don't know. Maybe you should, but at that point, let's just say
it's a little thing called the Constitution.
Yeah, I know, but the whole thing. Plus, he's in his 80s. I mean, at that point,
that won't wear well for him.
Yeah, exactly. So that's not going to happen. But 2028, Trump obviously is done. So who takes over? I mean, you got so many. I would go out on the point and say Democrats really have a small bench. The Republicans, I mean, we got so many good leaders out there.
Fantastic.
Right now. Yeah. I mean, J.D. Vance, obviously the vice president, amazing, but I'm wondering if he's just too young. That's nothing else, just too young. He's got plenty of time. You got Marco Rubio, who's probably the best Secretary of State we ever had, according to Trump. You got people like Ted Cruz, Ron DeSantis. I mean, who do you think? Yeah, what happens next? I'll just leave it to you.
Look, I agree with you. I've stopped doing the crystal ball thing a long time ago. I've learned that it doesn't end well. You named some good names. I would add Glenn Youngkin to that. I've interviewed Glenn Youngkin. Incredibly credible, likable, articulate. I've interviewed him several times, and off camera, very personable, very down to earth for a guy who's worth $500 million. He's leaving the governorship because he's term limited. Yeah. So it will be interesting to see what he does. But no, you have a lot of you've got a lot of great names out there. Marsha Blackburn, who likely is going to be the next governor of the state of Tennessee, is a woman leader within the party. She's been a woman leader in the party for many years. People really like her. I'm not saying that she's going to run for governor and then turn around and run for president. Yeah. But in terms of people who are going to come up, and I think we're going to hear and see a lot more of, I'd keep an eye on her. I don't know what Cruz is going to he's going to do, but the point that people should know is that we have a very deep bench, and the Democrats have a serious problem. Yeah, because other than even if you get a guy like Andy Beshear, who is a young, good-looking guy who comes from a red state, he's a blue governor in a red state, who's fancies himself a moderate, the money in the Democratic Party is all on the far left. It's all on the Marxist left.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
And so all of these folks are going to have to pray at the altar of these socialists.
Right.
Unless there's a real reckoning within the party and you get some folks who are willing to tell George Soros and these other guys to go to heck. J.B. Pritzker. I mean, the whole trans movement is a Pritzker creation, not J.B., but his family. His family helped fund a lot of these, a lot of the development of a lot of this this rhetoric and the pushing of a lot of this gender ideology crap into the schools. Because the Pritzker family is very, very wealthy, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
it's not just him who's a problem. He's got a sister. He's got other people in his family that have been that are an issue as well. The new normal is Republicans need to start speaking to the center, not pivoting to the center, but making sure that in everything that they are that they're doing, they are talking to independent, moderate voters and people who are disaffected Democrats. Yeah. People who are, the Bill Maher's of the world.
Right. Who stated that basically I didn't leave the Democrat Party, the Democrat Party left me.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you need to articulate that. And I think that it's very important to continue to grow. Trump, you can't deny this. He grew the map. Trump grew the map. He grew the voter coalition. He eviscerated the Obama voter coalition. Nobody thought that he would be able to do that. Yeah. But you can lose that if you don't continue to talk to people. That's one of the reasons why I think that if he continues to do well in the urban environments with Latino and Black voters, that's a significant sea change in the political status quo in this country.
Right.
Where I'm not saying that the Republicans will get a majority of those votes, but even, if you go from losing 90-10, the Black vote 90-10, to losing it, 70-30, that's epic in terms of the number of seats that you can win. Yeah. And certainly from an electoral standpoint on a national level. So that's really what Republicans have to do. The Republican Party just gave 90% of Americans a tax cut. They have done nothing to articulate exactly what people are going to get in 2026. So they're kind of always playing catch up in terms of their messaging game, and it's been a persistent issue within the party, and it needs to be solved.
Just look at gas prices, and we talked about the price of eggs. 8 months ago, we were talking about how expensive eggs are, and look, now you don't hear about it at all. Gas is down to $2.18 or something in Tennessee. I don't know what it is in California. It's probably
the average is under $3 a gallon. And with the new sanctions, maybe it's popped again. But the fact of the matter is that Donald Trump and the Republicans have done more for middle class working families in terms of tax cuts. Between the 2017 tax cuts and the bill that was passed this year than anyone has ever done. Yeah. Right? And the Democrats all said, he's never going to be able to do no taxes on tips. And he's never going to be able to do reduce taxes on Social Security benefits.
It's a huge thing.
And overtime.
Yep.
And yet he did all those things, right? But unless you tell people you've done it, it's like it never happened.
I know. And the negativity on the media not covering those things is horrendous.
But that's one of the reasons why what you do is so important. Because you're reaching people with a more substantive message than if they're watching network broadcast news. Yeah. Or you're reaching, or you're watching CNN, or MSLSD, or some of these other outlets. Yeah. Because what you do in a podcast is you have the ability to actually grab an issue and really dive into it. Yeah. I have a buddy of mine whose kid is getting ready to go to college, but he doesn't know if he really wants to go to college or if he wants to go to a trade school. Yeah. And I said, that Pell Grants for the first time can be used toward trade schools. Oh. The Republicans just did that. Wow. And he had no idea that was one of the changes in the bill that the Republicans passed. And he's like, that's fantastic. I'm like, yeah, that's great. Right. I shouldn't have to tell you that, right? Right. So Republicans have an enormous opportunity here. They're succeeding in delivering on a number of key things, but they have to talk to people about
Yeah.
They have to get out there. They have to be, you got to be a little bit like Tim Burchett. You have to go out there on your skateboard, you get into the community and just say, hey, look, this is what we did.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing for you. And look at this as much more of a local building from the local level up, rather than just sort of a top-down thing where we're just focused on, well, this is what Trump said today, and that's my challenge, right? In the media is, we went from basically not having a president to having a guy who doesn't sleep. He sleeps 4 hours a night, and he's constantly doing stuff, and he's just hard charging. But we get very wrapped up in this is what Trump did today. But I think you have to pull it back to, but this is what it means for you, and this is what has been accomplished.
True. Right?
And how it impacts your family and your business.
Yeah, that's a good point, because a lot of times it comes out like Trump is doing this, and it sounds negative the way they say it. But you're looking at it like, all right, he's doing that, yes, but what does it mean for you on the underlying? And then when that comes out, people are like, oh, wow, that sounds good for me.
You have to personalize it, and you have to personalize and engage with it on a much more local level, on a much more family economy kind of level. Yeah. And that's something Republicans have been like notoriously bad.
Yeah, well, hopefully, I think social media, I think a lot of them are starting to go into that realm. Even the small clips, you mentioned Tim Burchett, obviously the House from Tennessee, amazing guy. We did an interview with him not too long ago as well. And they're finally snapping back against the Democrats too, or the people are walking up to him trying to like get in his face and stuff, and he'll just have this one-liner that comes across, and the guy has no idea what's going on. Talk about his Game Boys or his Hot Pockets or anything else.
No, he's
hilarious.
Great. He's great. I just had the great pleasure of introducing him at the dinner here.
Yep.
And the way that I did it was I used his words to do it. So I did the top 5 Tim Burchett quotes as a way of introducing him, but the last one, and this is I think the overall message is, and this is his quote: "I don't take myself too seriously. I take the job seriously." Right, and I think that's important for Republicans.
Right,
I think that's important for Republicans to connect with people, and he's very good at doing that. But then also saying, well, this is what you're hearing from the other side. This is why that doesn't make any sense. Okay, and by the way, this is what we just did. So. I think that he's kind of got it down. I wish more of his colleagues did. Yeah,
well, his last tagline is on the way out is "Thanks for sending me here." Yeah. And I think a lot of the people out there in any Congress or anywhere, just in politics, forget who got you there and who put you in that spot, who gave you that right to make the laws and do all the things you're doing in that area. So,
well, that's the reason why I'm a big fan of term limits.
Term limits,
I ran for office the first time when I was 20 years old.
Oh, really? 20 years old. Okay.
Yeah. And but I have been I was a fan of term limits then. I was running against like a 7-term incumbent. And I'm a fan of them now. And because we need innovation in government, and we need to cycle these people out. I mean, poor Mitch McConnell. I mean, the guy's literally falling on the floor. He's got 3 people kind of holding him up. It's it's terrible.
He's freezing on camera. I mean,
it's terrible. I mean, and the guy's he obviously has health issues.
Sure.
So I'm a big fan of that. Get these people the heck out of there.
Yeah. Agreed. So what's happened next with you? I mean, you got a new Substack column coming out. You're gonna be focusing on beyond politics.
Yeah.
So, Tom Basile, what are you doing next with everything?
So we named it Beyond Politics because I think we need to focus on faith. We need to focus on life and living better lives. And yes, there's politics and going to be involved in it, and public policy and foreign policy, all the things that I've written about and talked about my whole career. But there is also going to be this undertone of just life. I think people are really exhausted by all of the bickering, all of the back and forth.
That's a good word for it. Exhausted.
People are turning off cable news. They're also turning off the broadcast news. They're listening to more podcasts because they want more of a conversation. And I think that bodes really well for America, frankly. I mean, the fact that people are willing to sit and listen to a podcast, and the sort of the era of people being in boxes on a television set yelling at each other
Right.
is sort of, I think that we're moving away from that. I think that's a really positive thing.
Right.
And I just, I want people to live better lives. I want them to feel better about themselves, about their country. I want them to have greater faith in their God and believe in America.
Yeah.
I did a segment a couple of weeks ago about how MTV is getting rid of all of their music channels in Europe, and they have now, like, it's so, the whole thing is sort of finally now collapsed, right?
Yeah.
And we had this segment just being nostalgic about the 1980s.
Yeah.
And look, we went through a very bad recession in the 1980s. A lot of people don't remember that, but we were proud to be Americans.
Yeah.
And we weren't at each other's throats. And the Marxists in the Democratic Party were still very much this sort of fringe group of people who shut up. And, you had the sort of traditional liberals, and Republicans and Democrats talk to each other, and there was no social media.
Yeah.
And people just, they felt better about being an American. Yeah. And so that's the reason why it's kind of beyond politics. We're going to be sort of branching out into other things. But that's the overarching, that's the overarching theme is we want people to feel better about themselves, their country, and their faith.
Yeah, that's one thing we try and do on this channel is too, just enforcing the talk of just conversating with other people, not necessarily on your phone, not snapping back one-liners on your social media page. It's actually getting out and talking to people. Yeah. And, that's the thing. And I think Charlie Kirk was a big version of that too, about, the conversation stops is when violence starts. And,
yep.
And it just look at it. That. Yeah, 100%. I mean, so it's just one of those things where you just need to go out and just talk to people, and that's so hard for some people, especially the ones that were shut down. They're now coming of age in their early 20s from COVID, 5 years ago.
Right.
They're now coming out going, all right, now I'm an adult, quote unquote. I should probably go talk to other adults, quote. And it's like, all right, but get out of the house.
That is that's the thing that's really that there's an opportunity, but because the Marxist left in America is so emboldened. And they have so much money behind them, and they have so many platforms behind them.
Yeah.
And they have fully come out of the closet. Okay. Yeah. The political tone and the political tenor, I'm afraid that there will be people who will back away from that and who will say, like, John Fetterman and Dave McCormick in Pennsylvania did a video the other day. Yeah. The two of them, Fetterman's in his hoodie,
Republican, Democrat,
Uncle Fester, the whole thing, and then Dave McCormick, and the two of them, they said, look, just open the government, okay? Whether you agree with the fact that they should open the government or not, the fact of the matter is the two of them can talk to you.
All right, so again, I in the intro I kind of talked about it. How else can we follow you, Tom?
Sure, I'm on X at Tom_Basile. And Instagram at Tom Basile. You can also follow me on Facebook. I think it's Tom Basile Opinion. And then my website, which has links to all of this and my columns, is tombasile.com. I'm very easy to find. Very easy to
yes,
find.
You are,
the Substack is Tom Basile. You just search for Tom Basile Beyond Politics, and then you can subscribe, and it's free, which is great. It's look. As long as we all do our part, America survives.
Yeah.
And freedom survives. And I always say to people, always go back. And there are going to be days when you think that the wheels are coming off the bus. As long as we go back to the three most important documents in the history of humankind. The Bible, New Testament, and Old Testament, the Declaration of Independence, and the Constitution of the United States. Those three things give you the roadmap for human flourishing if we stick to it. And so, do your part, be hopeful. That's what I always tell people. And don't worry that you don't get, 2 million clicks on a social media. Do something in your own community to make your community resilient against the creep of, Marxism or socialism. Just help people live better lives in your local area. We don't do enough of that. We really don't. We focus too much on Washington and all the stuff. So.
Awesome. Tom, thank you so much for coming out. I appreciate it. It's a great conversation. I think it's that just the hope and courage and the prosperity for America and freedom is going to be amazing going down the road.
We're going to do it.
We are going to do it. So, anyway, if you like this channel, please like and subscribe. It's the first time you've seen this or not. But anyway, we love comments. Put them in the comment section and let us know how we can get better and what you're doing at your hometown to extend the conversation. So, Tom, thank you so much for coming out. This is Truth Between Lines.
Between